It's not like we don't know that you have a job. It's either you have a job or you're doing something criminal or you still live with your parents.
What's going down? Appreciate you tuning into the brand new MEC. Was that a false start, Dame? My bad. I snatched back my intro spot. It's just it's a tough game of tennis between Dame and I when it comes to who's going to actually intro. What I do want to say, two things. Appreciate you tuning in. Thank you, especially if you've navigated to the new channel. And number two, if you haven't, I've been getting good feedback from people who have signed up for 2 Lost for the 3-month free trial. A lot of them don't want to leave. So if you want to get all your music up through a premium distributor to all the major platforms and even some of the non-major platforms that you didn't know existed, go to 2lost.com, use the code @odds, ATODDS, for 3 free months. And hey, if you want to stay, it's very cheap. How much a month is it after that? If you do the year, it's like $2, $3 a month.
$3 a month.
Yeah.
And I don't mind you doing the intro, Payne. Whatever gets this show off right is cool with me. But I would like to hear about your wins. Erinn, you got a win from the past week?
I probably should have shared this a couple of weeks ago, but considering that the money is supposed to hit our account tomorrow, I'm going to share it as the win of this week. Like 3 weeks ago, we found out, being my business partner and I, that we got like $60,000 worth of grants, 2 different $30,000 grants from the city of Austin, one for each of our businesses. My business partner technically had a $90,000 sweep in his household because his wife also owns an education business and got a grant from the city. So I'm super grateful for that. But I also just want to highlight to artists especially, there are so many ways to get money if you're not thinking solely about streaming or whatever. And this is not to spark up the debate again, but even the Digilog recently started posting about different grant opportunities for artists. But I used to hate going after grants because it's a lot of bit tedious. And shout out to my business partner for killing the grant applications. But now we have like a system and we have the answers in like a Google Doc and there's a way to answer everything. So that's a win for me. We have $60K worth of grants to do in real life events with people in Austin. So I'm looking forward to that, and in the process of applying for a lot more grants as well and going into the fall months. So go apply for grants, guys, and make your answers good.
Nice. Where did you, if this is a quick answer, where do you find grant opportunities?
I find a lot of them on, like I follow a lot of pages now, but I always go to local municipalities. So in the city of Austin, here in Nashville, city of Nashville. But you can literally just Google, like I Google in hyper specificity, like, grants for Black women in business who live in the Southeast, but I go on ChatGPT a lot too. I'll ask for specific type of grants, Google, Instagram, like there's plenty of places to look.
Nice. Payne, what you got for us from the past week?
This is a funny story. I'm actually it's like a win and a loss at the same time. So went platinum again, didn't know about it, found out about it on, just because like no one's going to tell you unless you check. So someone checked. And so I ordered the plaque months ago. And I'm not even going to talk about what it's for or whatever. I'll post the photos when I do. But another producer, I'll tell the story with names and everything at some point, but another producer, very accomplished producer, DMs me with a photo of my plaque. And I was like, what's going on? I had a whole plan. I was going to have a little get together, like a party celebrating it. So here's the loss part. The win part is like, it's on the way. I still don't have it. The loss part is I couldn't organize a party because I didn't know where it was. There was no tracking number, nothing. Oh, it's because they shipped it to an entirely different region, to an entirely different producer. Seeing that DM was hilarious, and I was also pissed off. But here we are.
Hey, you got another plaque. I think that's
thank
amazing.
You. I mean, it's more of a win than a loss. It just came with a little bit of inconvenience and some hilarity. I'll laugh more about it once this month is over.
Yeah. So Erinn's getting $60,000 Payne's getting plaques. My win is not going to be that glamorous, but I finally got Ja and some of the other team members to at least start using Asana, because we have like so many different projects that we started on. And I need transparency into all these scripts, who's working on what. We're trying to get to a point where we do one web series, one stops, one starts. Like, we don't have any gaps in our productivity. So Asana is a great way to organize all of this so I can see who's working on which episodes of which particular series, and we can continue to push the ball forward every single week. So I'm excited. I feel like we're a lot more organized now. So now it's just about doing the work and then hopefully reaping the benefits next year. So, yeah.
That may be a bigger accomplishment than both of us combined. I'm going to be honest.
I was going to say that.
Creatives to use Asana or any type of tracking productivity application that's a huge win.
Hey, it is, but I think, getting $60,000 in grants that you can use for your business is amazing. Payne just talking about, I just found out I was platinum again. I'm sure you knew that the song was doing well. You just didn't know it had hit platinum status, right?
No, I didn't. And when the album went gold, I had no idea. And I was like, okay, well, that's it. And then,
well, at least it went gold. Like, it wasn't just like out of the blue.
No, but I didn't know it went gold because I want to say Cardiac or Business Boy, some other producer posted the RIAA screenshot to their Instagram, and I was like, oh wait, I'm on that album. Hold up. So that's when I got the gold plaque, and then the same thing happened for the platinum, because I didn't think it was, it was a whole album, it was a double album. It was from a couple years ago. So I'm like, why would it suddenly just go platinum? That's a lot of streams, and it did.
What artist was it? What song?
That was the most recent Race Rumor album.
Nice.
I could see that because I think overseas they're doing a lot of stuff now. So I feel like, it could be blowing overseas. And when I say like the last couple of years, they've been doing a lot of stuff like in Asia and, so I could see that. That's super tight. I think it's funny like that you had to find out from seeing somebody online, but I feel like that's how the music industry works. Cause it's like the way that royalties are and all that, you would never know because everything is so behind. I
want to look at what their monthly streams are right now. After you said all that, Erinn, let me check. They're at 12 million. Okay, yeah, it's pretty strong.
And I see Slim Jimmy is doing a lot more stuff publicly now, like as of like the last several months. And he had kind of taken a break. I think he was trying to just like hang out with his kids or something like that, which I think is brilliant. I love that. So I could see, it doesn't surprise me that there's like an uptick, because that's probably why he stepped back on the scene,
My 9 to 5 is like my first business partner.
On my hand, I call it a little sugar daddy.
That's funny.
That's cute.
Yeah, I think that artistic pride can kind of get in the way and make you feel like less of an artist or something. It's like none of that shit.
Let's talk about that.
None of that really diminishes like your art because you work a fucking job. Like, okay, you have to do that. You have to live. You gotta, you know what I'm saying? But like, that don't make what you did less creative.
Yeah, so Chuck Indigo, shout out to Chuck Indigo. He's probably the first artist that I got into last year when I moved to Nashville. He has just a really unique, well-polished sound. He's not a huge artist on streaming, but he has a ton of respect from the city. He's playing with the arts programs and kind of like more of the like formal art stuff, but he also has the hip hop scene on lock. But yeah, he produces for people, if I'm not mistaken, as well, but he's got a good reputation. So that's how I found out about him. But he's also very well spoken, very intelligent. The first time I heard about him was on a podcast. And so he's talking about how he sees his job as his first business partner, and then how he had to wrap his mind around the fact that it doesn't minimize his art. And so there's a longer clip, but then, obviously the interview is really dope. So I would go to Chuck Indigo's page, check out the interview, but also check out his music. Like I've probably listened, he probably has 5 or 6 albums / EPs out in the last 7 years. And I haven't heard one that I didn't like. Like I'll play his stuff straight through. He's a really great artist. And I think it's, important to note things like this for people who feel like they have a diminishing value, maybe because they can't say I'm a full-time artist. I don't really know what the romanticism is around that for artists, because sometimes when I find out that really, really well accomplished artists also still work, it intrigues me even more, because it makes me wonder, how do they balance their time, their effort? Like one of my favorite Korean American artist. His name is Uzuhan. Dude is touring with some of the biggest K-pop bands. He goes back and forth from Korea nonstop, but he works in tech and has a fully remote job. And I posted a video earlier this year. We were sitting, he hired me and all of our friends to run production for a company that he works for. We just had to kind of like monitor people. It was the definition of middle management. We got paid really, really well. And while we're at this conference that we're working for his company, we're sitting in the break room and ESPN is on and a commercial starts playing with his music on it. And literally it's this whole moment where he's like, who's playing my song? He was like, y'all stop being weird. And then he's like, wait. And then it's on the TV and then we all freak. Like this dude is on ESPN commercial. It was like an underwear commercial. His music is getting played. Now he makes a lot of money from his music, but also makes a lot of money from his tech support job. And I find him to be super fascinating. He said that he has to live like that because he can't be solely focused on creation. Because he said the balance is what helps him create within a certain margin of time and maximize it. But also if he ever wants to shoot an exorbitant video, which he did last year, he shot a really expensive music video. And he was like, I'm just doing art for the sake of art, but I can do this because I have disposable income, So, I want to know y'all's thoughts about it. What do you feel like is the hang up for so many artists? But also, why do you feel like so many artists are scared to say they have a job? Or why do they not want to work? I know why some don't want a job because they just don't want to work. I know that they're like, I'm talented. I shouldn't have to do this. That part is, I'm not even addressing those. For people who are scared to say they have a job, as an industry person, that doesn't at all make me feel like you're less of an artist, especially in this economy. I'm looking for a job right now, low key, because I'm like, I'm not going to get a job.
Yeah. For me, it's the opposite. When I see an artist that's full-time artist and I'm like, there's no way you're making a full-time income doing this. What are you doing? And I think we're just going to gloss over the fact that what's her name? Bria, the woman that was interviewing him, said she did the same thing, but she found a sugar daddy. I know a lot of people. Actually, I know a couple male artists that were living off some women. I
know plenty of those. I think she says she calls her job her sugar daddy, though. I think that's what she was saying.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Well, however you get it. When I'm thinking about the sources of income some of these dudes had, they didn't do shit with it. I'm just like, man, if I had a woman paying for my bills and funding my dreams, I didn't have that, and I still managed to make it full time. But yeah, I think the Korean artist that you mentioned is in a really unique and blessed position with a remote job that they clearly enjoy. Because if they didn't like it, it wouldn't be like that. I think a lot of artists work jobs that they just hate, and then they're focused so much on hating the job, and then they turn around and they start, they're tired, so they don't want to create music. Or if they do try to create music, they're more focused on making money from it. Then they start hating music because they're not making money from it, and they just ping pong. In a case, this is the unfortunate reality. If you give an artist a choice between working a job they hate that pays their bills or making music they love that doesn't pay their bills, they're going to prioritize the job. they're not going to find a way to transition from one to the other.
Yeah. Well, the truth is, like, most artists have to get a job. And we know most of you have to get a job because you're on the internet complaining about how much Spotify pays you so little. Like, we know that most people have to get a job. Now, whether or not you share that is up to you, right? Like, to me, it would make sense to share that because that's a way to connect with most people, because most people have to work. Most people have, feelings and emotions when they go to their job. Some people hate their job. Some people love their job. I actually enjoy my job. I don't think there's any job where you enjoy like every piece of it, but I have no problem coming in to my office and working at Two Loss. Like, I actually enjoy it. It complements like the other stuff that I do. If you hate your job, you have to work to get a job that you like. Most jobs that you don't work for, you're going to end up hating. So I feel like if you can't endure a job that you hate and kind of see it as a means to an end, then you have to do work to get to a job that you like. The jobs that people enjoy aren't easy to get because they're in high demand, much like being an artist, right? It's hard to become an artist because everybody wants to be an artist. So therefore, a lot of people are making music, but there's not that many ears that want to listen to music. There's not that much time in a day for everybody to listen to the hundreds of thousands of songs that are uploaded to Spotify every day. So I would encourage people to share their journey, open up, be authentic. But if you want to hide that, it's not like we don't know that you have a job. It's either you have a job or you're doing something criminal, or you still live with your parents, or you have a sugar daddy or a sugar mama. Like, this is life. We have to pay our bills somehow, some way. And if you're online telling us and complaining about the industry, that lets me know you don't do this full time. So, and there's a lot of you doing that, and it's the reality of trying to pursue music.
Yeah, there's definitely a trade-off. I mean, like, I'll even shine some light. I moved in and out of my parents' house all of my 20s trying to make it happen. You know what I'm saying? And then even in my 30s, I was living in one of their properties because it was cheaper. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we first started doing the podcast, I was in one of their properties. Like, I was still paying rent, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, you gotta make it work. And then even for me now, it's like, because of the way that I live life and my cost of living outside of my home, I'm intentional about where I live, who I rent from. That's why the South works for me. The cost of living in the South is way lower than somewhere else. So it's like Atlanta or Nashville, they're way more expensive than they used to be, but it's way less expensive than California or New York. I also don't like either of those for living environments for me. But there's a trade-off. Like, for me to be where I am right now, especially the type of disadvantages that I face, like swimming upstream, not taking a traditional role for so long while I couldn't find anybody that would hire me. There's so many constraints. And I'm like, I want to do this thing. I'm not above saying that I'm going to stay with my parents. You know what I'm saying? And I hated it at first, but then I was like, again, when I started looking into the industry, it's like, but I really do. I mean, again, I'm still paying rent, but I'm like, oh no, but I really do this full time. I started looking into all the people that I was comparing myself to. And it's like, some of them weren't making any money off the industry, but you thought they were because they're at every industry event, wearing the dopest shoes, whatever. It's like, oh, they got a corporate job. Like, I'm all right. You know what I'm saying? And not to say that there's anything wrong with that corporate job. That's just the path that they chose. So it's like, you got to decide if you want to prioritize your art, you have to deprioritize the other things that you may find important. I didn't buy cool clothes or shoes for a decade. Because it's so tough. You know what I'm saying? When you need new clothes and shoes, you buy stuff that you like. But I didn't start buying like just fun stuff until probably 4 or 5 years ago, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's a trade-off. So I think people are ashamed of what it takes to be great. And that's the reason why so many people aren't great. You know, you will never understand the level of sacrifice that is required for greatness until you challenge yourself to be great. That's when you know. And I agree with Kayne. I mean, with Dame, I chuckled when he said people complaining about Spotify rates. It's true. The only people who have time to complain about Spotify rates are people not making money from Spotify. again, as somebody who didn't utilize that as our focal point for our business model, I was never like, Spotify needs to pay my artists more. I'm like, beloved, we're going to go get this money in other places, you know? And I see that for myself now. It's like, there's so many things. I've hit so many roadblocks, so many walls financially in this industry. And it requires me to continuously reinvent myself, add more skill sets, figure it out. And then you just get into an ebb and flow. But if every time you hit a wall, you complain, you never find the solutions, or they don't come quickly enough for you to evolve into who you're supposed to be. So I think a job is actually necessary and very beneficial for a lot of y'all who may be like, I don't really want to, or I feel ashamed about this. And then even back to Uzuhan, I don't think he loves his job, but he doesn't mind it. He was working at the Apple store because he was just like, I just like talking to people. You know what I'm saying? And then he was working at the Apple store. Then he started working for this tech company. But he's always open to new and exciting things. And I think when you look at a job as an opportunity that could be exciting and engaging, you know, like I've been looking for a job like Dame for a minute. Like, what's something that naturally flows with what I'm already doing, but can give me a little bit more long-term sustainability? But, you know, if it doesn't come, I'm going to figure it out regardless. But yeah, I just think, I think a lot of people
get you over the two lost at some point, Erinn.
You said what?
We'll figure out how to get you over the two lost eventually.
I'm saying.
People that
y'all say y'all need a satellite office in Nashville or Atlanta. Let me know.
But it's just it's a ridiculous like thing to even think of. What other industry where do you have people that like think that they can just start doing something completely 100%? Like even if I wanted to just open up a smoothie shop or something, like I can't just with no money just be like, okay, I'm leaving my job and I'm going to go figure out how to start a smoothie shop with nothing. Like, what am I doing?
Well, how many conversations do we have on here where it starts with a recording artist complaining how much marketing costs, how much beats cost, how much this costs, how much that costs? And then when we really compare it to the cost of education for the average profession or the cost of opening up a brick and mortar business, there's no comparison. It's like, man, I got to pay $500 for a beat. That's like $1,000 every time. And you're like, do you know what businesses actually spend on average? Because that's on the low end. And it's just that the expectation is in music, everything just is free and easy. I don't understand how on the one hand, we have like two parallel incompatible narratives at all times. One is music is so inaccessible, it's expensive, it's ridiculous, it's so awful. And on the other hand, it's music is the easiest thing in the world. If you're an artist, it's easy. It's just you get free money coming in. And people are existing between those completely opposite narratives at all times. And you just bounce back from one to, why isn't your music doing better? Why is your music career all messed up? Oh, because it's cost prohibitive. But what about all these other artists? Oh, it's easy for them. They just got money falling out of the sky. Which one is it?
This is also why a lot of the people that are in this position or do this, like, don't get any help, right? Because people that are actually in music, they see how you're moving and be like, you don't want to get a job. Like, how do you want me to help you? And you're not even willing to bust your ass to help yourself. Like, before we started this podcast, I told Kayne and Erinn that there's a possibility that I might get into management of a music artist again. However, the person that I'm talking about is really spread thin. Like, he's doing so much, and he's starting to find success in all of these different pockets by himself, right? He's doing what he has to do to pay the bills. Luckily, he loves doing that too. And he used that to fuel the artistry, and the artistry does pretty well too. He gets placements and things like that. So you want to help somebody like that. You want to help somebody that has so much going on and is working their ass off, and he has a family. Like, you want to help that person as opposed to the person that's like, oh man, I got to get a job. I think I'm just dope. I want to do music full time. I think I'm just going to, sit here and create music like that. who do you want to help more, Erinn? Payne? Like what scenario, in what world would you help the person that's just like not doing anything for themselves versus the other person that has a bunch of shit going, but just needs help to support all of the different pockets that he's finding success in? It's a no-brainer. It's ridiculous that we even have this conversation at this point.
I think we should clarify too, the guy who's you're talking about isn't paying his bills from like a 9 to 5, because I feel like folks go start DMing you like, damn, I'm willing to do whatever. I got a job and I got 10,000 monthly listeners. Like, no, dude is doing his thing. But yeah, I mean, there's the famous Southern saying, God helps those who help themselves. I can't even touch you with a 10-foot pole personally. Like, I don't have any friends who aren't propelled by their own forward momentum. You know what I'm saying? And even when my friends aren't, like my best friend, she's like starting something new right now, has a decent job, frustrated, and really sees where she's going next. And she's like, what should I do? I'm like, do the next 5 steps. Don't wait for this step 1 to do. Because I said, once you resolve step 1, if you haven't planned the next 5 steps, you're going to just be stuck. And then you're going to be frustrated. And then you're going to be in this feedback loop again. So even in my personal life, it's not easy being friends with me because I'm like, I got that get up and go in me. And then even for me, I'm always putting myself around people who have more get up and go than me. So I be around Dame and I feel lazy. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, damn, like he's right. You know what I'm saying? So I think if you want to justify how much you're working, that tells me that you're not in an environment with people who are really getting after it. You know, like I'm not even going to sit here and brag about like how much I do in a day by any means, because I don't believe that if I'm focused on hard work that I'm actually going to get to where I want to go. I think it's a myth to think that only hard work gets you to where you need to go. So that's not what this is about. But if you don't have hard work as a tenet of who you are as a person, it's never going to get to where you want it to go, because your default will be to complain or to compare when you have to do the work. I had one of my fintech homies. I'm starting to get friends in the fintech world now. He called me the other day just to check in. We've done a little bit of work together, and he's like, how's it going? I'm like, man, I am working right now. And he started laughing, and I'm like, cause I had hit about 4 or 5 months where I had a good amount of clients. I had figured out the juggle, and I won't say I wasn't working hard, but I wasn't working that hard, and I was really making it go. Now I'm like, I'm working triple as hard and I don't have the money yet. And I'm like, this is tough. But we chuckled about it because it's like, that's just the ebb and flow of making the dream work. You know, it's not always going to be full tilt, but you got to know that that's just a requirement. And if you want somebody who has motion in their life to be attracted to you, you have to be on the same type of time. The reason that so many people are interested and willing to help me is, even though I don't get it perfect, people can tell I'm out here working to make things happen and not just talking. And so if you're like, nobody's paying attention to me, nobody's showing me love, 1, you're probably in the wrong environment. But 2, the fact that you're saying that is your issue. I never said that. When folks wasn't showing me love, I'm like, they just don't get it yet. I just got to make it bigger. I wasn't going to spend my time. That type of energy, that defeatist mentality, you just keep feeding it, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Don't keep telling yourself that.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next topic, because, if you need this much of a pep talk, this ain't for you. I'll just be honest with you. Like, music ain't for you if you need this much of a pep talk to kind of get you out of your rut.
Well, speaking of which, let me just play a bit of the song because I haven't actually heard it, but that's not really the focal point of this particular section of the podcast.
The neighbors know my name. 4 a.m., we ain't got no shame. Hotel and blowing your back in your brains. Look up and down while you riding this train. Legs in the air, you trembling as I devour. Pull me away.
Okay, so the real focal point is, I guess, the comment section.
Yeah, no, I saw this morning, and it just reminded me that we should talk about this, because if you're gonna do music, you're gonna have to have some very thick skin. If you're gonna present yourself on social media at all, you're gonna have some very thick skin. As soon as I saw this cat, I knew that the comment section was gonna be on fire. And as we saw, like the first one I think I saw was R Belly.
Yeah.
So I just want to talk to folks and this could be a very quick segment.
And for the record, just to defend this dude, the top comments are from dudes that need to hit the gym themselves, not because they're overweight. They just need to hit the gym themselves. And it's all straight men commenting on how this other straight man looks. There's a lot of weird shit going on in the comment section.
I mean, we're in America. Most people need to hit the gym. And I'm not saying this cat lacks confidence, because obviously he was at least confident enough to post it. Now, if I was critiquing the actual performance, I think a lot of times people don't look that comfortable on camera because they don't fully commit to the movements. They don't look that comfortable doing what they're doing. And I would say, like, the song was actually decent. Like, it was solid. But it didn't look like the movements were real to him. It didn't come natural. You can see that on camera. That's one of the long ass list of things that I would look at in terms of like, who would we want to sign to Funk Volume? Like, how comfortable and natural do they look on camera? And I think he has a little bit of work to do in this area, just because his movements and his vibe, it just didn't look natural to me.
Well, and the scene, really it didn't make sense. It was like a playground, or like the outside of a hospital or something. Like, that's not a sexy scene.
Yeah. So if you don't got those natural movements, and until you work on those, maybe it's more of like just you sitting in front of the fireplace singing your song, or in the window with the rain behind you, or something that's more R&B vibe-ish. But anyway,
was his response did he seem hurt?
No. I don't know this cat. I don't know how he feels about the comments. I just wanted to talk about it in general, because the comment section of any video is going to have jokes. It's like high school. And to be honest with you, I go to the comment section a lot of times because it's hilarious. That's where I get the most laughs in my day, is the comment section. The comment section is today's In Living Color. Or Black Twitter today is today's In Living Color. That's where I get the most laughs. Some of these people, if you took writing seriously, you probably would have a job at, SNL or on a show, or you can start your own show, because some of the stuff is hilarious. Our belly.
I feel like Black Twitter is a different. Black Twitter is like sophisticated satire, whereas the comment section is just a lot of angry single dudes. You know what I mean?
Well, there's people that write in both. I'm sure there's people that write in both. But anyway, again, and you guys, if we can move on to the next thing, if there's nothing else to add. But I just want to remind people, like, hey, it's gonna be rough in the comments, especially in the beginning, if you don't have all your shit together. There's no comment section where everything is positive, maybe except for like La Russell's. Like, it's even hard. Like, it's hard to hate on like La Russell's energy and things like. I don't see that many negative. I see a negative comment every once in a while, but you're gonna have to expect that. So don't let that deter you or influence your decisions. Like, you should have a focus on who you are and what you're trying to do, and stay the course. Critique and jokes are going to come with the territory. So you can't let that affect you. So we know at this point, like, what the internet is, and we can kind of predict at this point how people are going to respond to certain content that gets posted. So get ahead of that, and maybe even use that to your advantage. Maybe he knew that these comments were coming, but how can we use these comments to fuel more engagement on the post if you still feel like the content is fire?
That's what I was going to say, because on the one hand, I started by saying, all right, I don't think, because we're always saying you don't need a big budget to create content. You can create content anytime you want. And, granted, that's true. And he took that literally, not that he listened to us, but he created content wherever he was. I personally don't think the setting connected to the song, but at the same time, that post got more engagement probably than the average, well thought out, well planned music video that most artists drop. And so who was right? And I could have looked at that piece of content and been like, it doesn't connect, but it sure as hell got engagement. Not necessarily the right kind of engagement, but these days, what is the right kind of engagement?
Yeah. And he might have set some of this up on purpose. When you played it, it didn't catch like the first part of the verse, but in the first, when it first starts, it mentions something about a gym session. And, folks went in on that particular lyric, with a cat that's heavy. So the comment section is hilarious. That's, if I want to laugh in my day, I just look at the comment section of some of these videos and,
but it's like, how many big dudes are, everyone's big. Like you said, it's America, and I live in the Midwest. You're in California saying that shit. I'm in the Midwest. Everybody out here has high blood pressure. So I don't really, I had a conversation about this with my friend last night because we were talking about other countries and, because I was making food and I'm like, I'm making rice. I know you're counting carbs, but like the countries where they eat rice, they don't have an obesity problem. Let's just eat this rice. And it's just, we've normalized that. But somehow it's still hilarious to people. Like, it's like the Lizzo factor. Everyone just jumps on Lizzo because she's been losing weight, but not that it's any of my business. I'm just saying it's kind of low hanging fruit, but I wonder either this singer is incredibly self-aware to the point where he can manipulate the shit out of the audience he's anticipating getting, which is amazing. He should somehow figure out a way to create an entire marketing agency based on that, or this is entirely accidental.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of big rappers that have embraced being big, obviously. I guess who's the cat currently? Big X the Plug. He always got his shirt off, right?
A lot of them. How many? Rod Wave, Boss Man D-Lo.
Boss Man D-Lo, yeah. I was gonna say, like, all the biggest rappers, it's like that, like, that's just the way of the world now. Everybody's big, which I'm not necessarily like clapping and applauding for, like Mexican OT. Like, it's a lot of like real big dudes. I do think that people should embrace themselves. But as a society, as a people, I want to encourage us to lose weight. I've been, you know what I'm saying, been getting fit for the last 5 years. Like, you don't have to have instant results, but it's like, if you want to live long, if you really would want what you want, let's do better. But I'm not telling bro, because he could be on his weight loss journey, which is why he mentioned the gym. I will say though, I don't think you should just expect or like just not be upset by the polarity, but you should expect it and welcome it. If there's no tension and everybody likes you, that means that you're kind of just like mayonnaise, right? They'll get tired of you or forget about you quickly. And I don't like shock jocks or like people who are polarizing just for the sake of polarity. But I think that you have to have an opinion. I think that you have to have a perspective and something unique to penetrate the market and to add value to the world. So I think it's dope that he did this because he's obviously trying to get comfortable with himself. Like Dame said, like, you can tell he's not fully comfortable, but I've dated guys of all different shapes and sizes. I'm consistently attracted to men who are confident, like just on their stuff, like nerd, whether you're a nerdy ass guy or you're a super athlete. I like when you're on your shit. Like if you're into it or coming into it, I'm not saying you got to be the most confident. I think everybody's attracted to confidence though. So I think it's more about what his goal is. And if his goal is to bring popularity or like recourse to his music or his art, he's doing a great job and I hope he leans in. And I think for you, if you're worried about the negative comments or what people say, build your own self-confidence.
Yeah. The two things, and then we can move off to the next thing. One thing, and I hate that I'm admitting this, but it really isn't me that's driving this decision. My wife watches Love is Blind, and I happen to just be there, and I catch some of it. Last night was one of those nights, and one of the most cringiest, like awkward moment is the cat that you know doesn't really have confidence and probably doesn't have that much experience with women in real life. That confidence is key, not just in music, but just in life in general, whether it's with a potential partner, whether it's at your job. You have to develop confidence. Some of that confidence comes with just experience. Some of it comes with education. But as artists, you definitely have to be confident in this. And the last thing, I just want to shout out my guy, Big Ja, who has lost 100 plus pounds in just 3 months. So a lot of people.
Congrats to him. That's huge.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, he started off like heavy. I mean, the journey is on actually YouTube. It's not on his page, but they're documenting it and everything. And he started at like 430, and now he's down at like 320 something. And you can see the difference. And I think it's going to also, I think that's one of the reasons why he just didn't have energy. Well, I know that's one of the reasons why he just didn't have energy to work, and if we're going to do what we want to do, we got to be working every day, putting in hella hours. So shout out to Big Ja. He wants to get down to like 250, 260, and he's well on his way, because that's only little over 3 months. He's down 100 plus pounds, and that's no Ozempic accusations. It's going raw vegan. It's working out twice a day. And then there's a cleanse involved as well.
Oh, serious.
Man is a raw vegan right now. Is he going to be like that forever?
Nah, he hates it. He's but he's locked in. So I need him to lock in for his health. And then next year I need to lock in this work. And I think in a year from now, we'll be in a much better place. So shout out Big Ja.
I have 2 things to say to that too. They'll be quick. I have one question about Love is Blind, because I haven't watched it, but I will say this, I spend a lot of money on coaches. I spend most of my time learning, listening to successful people, podcasts, whatever. And that was probably the ultimate thing that tipped me over. Like, I've heard, my health is wealth, I'll get healthy. In high school, I was super athletic. After high school, I went into a little depression. I didn't realize I was depressed because I didn't go to school. I was kind of doing my own thing, trying to figure it out. Went to school for a little bit, dropped out, went to school for a little bit, and then found my path, right? So I gained a lot of weight. Then I was like eating crazy shit, you know what I'm saying? And stressed, whatever. So it was like a 10-year up and then coming back down, like getting my life together now. But something that a lot of coaches will tell you is that, when you lose weight, you'll make more money. Some people resist that. They're like, I don't want to get into the societal norms, the societal standards. Part of it is your perception, especially for women. That is a big thing. If you look more desirable, and you can run from this if you want, because I ran from it. I'm like, people just need to accept me. If you look more desirable, you'll make more money. That's one. But 2, your mind is sharper. If you're able to resist your urges, if you're able to say, I'm going to commit to this thing long term as a lifestyle, not as a moment, then there's so many benefits to your business. So I feel like, for me, I'll tell you, my biggest drop happened last year, and that's also my biggest gain in money. So even for me right now, I'm channeling some different stuff at the back half of this year. The last 2 months, I've been focused on losing a big portion again. Nothing crazy, but taking a big chunk off, because I'm I need to ascend again, making this money. So I'll tell you, you may be against it, but if you got some extra weight to lose, challenge yourself. Not next year, not January 1st. What can you do tomorrow? What can you do next week to really say, I want to channel this thing. I want to lose some weight and make some more money, grow my career. And then secondly, Dame, I'm slightly confused what you're saying about Love is Blind. Is it, I know they are behind the thing. I've seen the previews and I see people talking about it.
They're out now.
Are you saying that what'd you say?
They're out now. They're all interacting.
Right. Okay. So you were saying it's awkward when the dude who doesn't have social skills now has to come out and meet the people. Is that what the point you were making?
It's awkward even just in the verbal communication. You can tell. I can tell when a man talks to a woman, if he's had much experience doing that.
Which dude are you talking about, Damien?
The cat. He has dark hair, slim. Always talks about his money.
Oh,
That's a clue right there. Like,
Yeah,
talks
I
about
was
his
like,
money.
you lead with money, I already know what it is.
he had like, I think there
The
was
art dealer.
I don't know what he does because I don't. Again, I'm not just saying this just to make myself feel cooler. Like, I don't really watch Love Is Blind. It just is on.
I watched it one night. With my girl, but
and
then,
I make what I really don't like about Love Is Blind is it makes my wife talk about like our relation and like things that happened in the past. Like it brings like past stuff. And I've never cheated on my wife or anything, nothing like that. But like little things. It's like, well, this happened, blah blah blah. It's like, because that's one of the reasons that, and I think the show is stupid. I'm not like who. If you find love doing that, then great. But like a lot of these people, I think, especially since it's been on for I don't know how many seasons. Like, I feel like a lot of people now are using these shows just to get a little clout, get their Instagram pages up, start their podcasts, whatever. I just don't believe. There have been a few couples where you're like, okay, this seems, relatively real. But yeah, this cat, the cat that's on there, who do you think?
The dude with the one braid.
Oh, are you saying he's an example of somebody that's doing this for clout, or you think it's real?
No, I think him and the woman whose name I forget. I remember. You remember a name like Ramses. I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah, there's some people that say, okay, these are cool, but Anyway, you could just tell that he had that you're not a very confident person and you just haven't had that much success or experience with women. It's easy to see. It's easy to see, just like it's easy to see, bringing it back to the music and the heavier gentleman in this video. It's easy to see inside. You're probably not that comfortable like doing those movements. And it's not because he's white, because I've seen some white cats swag out and it looks natural. It looks solid. You just need more repetition probably. But sometimes even it's like the difference between, and me and my wife had this conversation, not a lot, but we've argued about it because she's a Justin Timberlake fan. And I tell her like, yeah, Justin Timberlake might be able to dance better than, like, he may be able to do more moves than Bruno Mars, but Bruno Mars looks better dancing. It just, to me, it looks swaggier and natural. If you go to a Bruno Mars show, his show is amazing. The whole band rocks out.
Definitely can. He has more moves than Justin Timberlake. I'm not even accepting that comparison. Bruno Mars by a landslide.
No, because Justin, I feel like, he's in the dance studio doing the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4. He's probably been in NSYNC. So he probably has he's definitely done more routines, right? I think
because Bruno Mars's family was a traveling band and he used to have to dance with them when he was a kid. He's like, comes from like a Jackson 5 type upbringing.
Okay. All right. But my point is, he looks more natural dancing than Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, because one is the product
swaggy
of instruction and the other is the product of environment.
Yeah, it's just swaggier and it looks more fun. I don't care if he just did a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that he just did something
way
natural.
Lower to the ground, so it probably works out for him dynamically.
Is Bruno Mars short?
Yeah, so
that dude is
very
like
short.
He's like 4'8". He's barely breaking 5 foot. He's like Kevin Hart, Cat Williams short.
I've seen him. I mean, I've seen the show live, but I wasn't close. I've actually seen him up close one time, and he is very short. But if you get a chance to go to a Bruno Mars concert,
they say that online. Look up Kevin Hart, Cat Williams. I've done this with friends. They all have them at like 5'5" because they don't want them to look. They're all short. They're all like less. Some of them are less than 5 feet.
Well, there's a whole genre of photography that's like Bruno Mars standing next to tall people, and like this, it's like Bruno Mars next to Taylor Swift. That's not fair.
If you're gonna model your show after anybody, Bruno Mars is probably the best person of like today's era to model a show after. Like the band is crazy, the vocals are crazy, the songs are crazy. You don't even realize how many Bruno songs you actually know until you go to the concert. And
I'll interject one more because this is who I just saw in Denver at Red Rocks. Anderson .Paak. My God.
Yeah, well, and they perform
One of the
together.
best shows I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, and they perform together in Vegas. That's one of the that's because I've seen Bruno 3 times. I think 2 by himself, and then the one with Anderson .Paak. Yeah, amazing. Model your shows after these people, not in terms of how much it costs to do the pyrotechnics and have that many members, but the quality and the time and the emphasis on the small details that these cats put into their show. That's what you can emulate. Now,
all right, let me end on this Kanye thing, which, I feel like when people start isolating clips, this could take off. So in the producer community, are we going to stop using 808s because Kanye, because this, it's not a new interview, but I know how the producer community works. Something goes viral and they're like, oh, we got to stop using 808 bass. I just want to play some of this because it's interesting to me, and I think it's interesting to Erinn. I think Dame will hate it.
808 exists in the lowest chakra of your body. The majority of content that's related to the 808 is killer or sexual content. The original 808s was even off pitch. So that meant it's an actual sound in the track that you don't realize is there that is fucking up your entire frequency. Right. And now, today, every time I hear a car come out, it's 808. But if you think about African music and hip-hop and what we was breakdance to, it was light.
The percussion.
It was upbeat. It was the drums.
808 produce low frequency.
Obviously, this Instagram page is promoting some type of manifestation course based on a doctor that I don't believe exists at all. But I can see how this conversation about 808s would play into the larger narrative that hip hop and the music business is a psyop. And I think based on my experience in the music business, there are some elements of that. Certainly. I mean, when you look at who's running the music business, who's benefiting from it, are certain agendas being discouraged? Yeah, but it ultimately comes down to who makes money. I don't want to get too far into all of that because it's all very timely and people get censored for discussing certain things. But, Erinn, I know you're a person who, like me, you talk about it more openly than I do. I don't talk about it openly. I don't feel like an authority on it. It's just something I explore in my own personal life. But just all the, the law of vibration, things like that. I mean, these are... some of it's based on science, some of it's kind of not, some of it's bullshit, like whatever fake doctor they were trying to sell you on. But what were your reactions? Is this something that you've heard before? Because you always hear about frequencies, and so they're tying that into the sub bass that producers are putting in beats nowadays.
I didn't realize I've ever talked about like vibrational things, but I guess I don't know. I think people would be surprised to actually find out my thought process around the world and spirituality. I'm open, but I'm not somebody who's necessarily, like you said, just putting everything out there. But I think that a lot of people limit themselves because they're born into something or they find something, and then they just assume that everything else is a non-point. So I will also be careful because I don't know people's belief systems, and I'm not trying to impose mine as an authoritative figure. But in one of the undergrad programs that I didn't graduate from, I studied world religions, and we had a big section on, there's a lot of frequency work in Eastern culture, but also in like North African religions. So this makes sense to me. It's interesting, funny, and unironic because it's Kanye that he's talking about 808s, considering his most heavily lauded sleeper album is 808s and Heartbreaks. That's OG. Every Kanye fan in the world is that's probably top 2 best works of art from him. I don't consider it that, but yeah. So not to say it's bad, it's cool, but I could rank Kanye albums and that wouldn't even be in my top 5.
Well, and he didn't stop using sub bass after this interview came out. On the Ty Dolla $ign album he did on Vultures, 808s all day.
Okay, so Vultures is a great example. I didn't listen to Vultures because of the frequencies that were coming from it. So I'm somebody who won't listen to stuff because I can detect, or sometimes I can feel something that's off in it. But going back kind of into like the stuff that I studied, we did have, just some stuff about like different things that'll pierce certain like airwaves and different things. Your brain can detect it in certain places, but your ears can't. So it's like unless you've either been trained to interpret it or you naturally are sensitive to some of those things. So like empathic people may be able to pick up on it, or people who have dealt with different things in life, or people who are trained to deal with it. But then also like a lot of yogis and like yogic instructors will talk about like once you get into a high level of yogi and they start talking about full embodiment, they talk about, that's why they hit the little ding thing when you go into Savasana. I don't know what it's called. I don't want to disrespect anybody, but you go into Savasana, they tap the little bell because it's supposed to pierce your current frequency and provide calm, right? There's a lot of different frequency work that happens in the world. I've talked to just a bunch of different people. I've done research on it because I do work in the music industry and I do want to be a good steward of everything that's been entrusted to me. And some people are like, I listen to everything. I used to be like that. I used to be like, I listen to everything. But the way that my sensitivity is set up, I can feel when things are off. And sometimes I don't have an explanation for them. And so as I've done my research, and I say off because for me, it's not for me. It's off for me. It's out of tune for me and who I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be listening to, what should be channeled in me. But if you talk to the right people, you read the right things, it's simple math and it is true. You could believe it or not, but there are frequencies that lend more to depression. There are frequencies that lend more to anxiety. There are frequencies that lend to uplifting you. There are all sorts of things. So I think if you're interested, you can look into it. There's a deep, deep rabbit trail that you can go into. There's a lot of dark shit out there. I would say be careful what you're searching for because you could get overwhelmed. In my searching, I had to back off a little bit from it because there was so much darkness. I've traveled a lot to other countries. I was in one that I won't mention because I don't want to knock it, but they were dealing I was talking to one of the police officers out there and they were dealing with some dark stuff that had to do with frequencies and what the youth were doing with these frequencies to cause trouble, or it's just, I don't know, it's a scary world. I think that people try to undermine spirituality as like, oh, that's just for whatever, or people are like, oh, it's not that deep. This is not really happening. It's a conspiracy. It's like, believe what you want, but like there are forces at work, very spiritual, intentional forces at work that want you to believe that nothing else is going on so that you could just be lulled and whatever. So do as you please, lean into your convictions. If you have spiritual leaders or people that you can talk to help you affirm and understand where you stand with some of this stuff. But for me, it's something that I take seriously because, again, I'm very sensitive and I'm called to very specific things in this world. And I have to be mindful what's going into my ears and through my brain and flowing through my soul. And I feel like if I'm meant to protect my own soul, then I got to be careful in this music industry.
You're right, Payne, in the beginning. Like I wasn't going to care too much for this topic, but that doesn't mean that I think it's complete bullshit either. I think that there's a lot of truth to what Erinn is saying, but I think some people hear this and think that like, if you're a completely healthy person, you're going to hear a sound and then automatically like be in a trance and like go do some weirdo shit. I think that, if you're already in a dark space, I think music can take you further down that path. And that was my concern. And that's my concern with a lot of this, like self-harm, like self-drug music, like, cause there's a lot of artists that I would talk to and they wouldn't even be in that space anymore, but they would continue making that music because that's what was resonating with people on Spotify. And I would ask them like, bro, you're not even depressed anymore. Like you're healthy, you're making good money. Like, why do you keep making this music? And the answer was like, that's what people are gravitating towards. So I think if you're in that space and you continue to listen to that music, it's going to be hard to take yourself out of that space because it keeps leading you down that path. And in that way, I don't understand the music to the extent that, or in the frequencies and things to the extent that Erinn just explained. But I do think music can have a very real impact on people, especially if you're in that place. If you're in a dark place. You don't even
have to be in a dark place, though. You could just be susceptible, like kids. That's why I think it's so important for parents to be paying attention to what. There are so many witches in the music industry. I'll say that. If you are into witchcraft or witches, yeah, like actual witches, like casting spells, right? I'm saying this. I'm not giving an opinion pro or con. I'm just saying there are a ton of witches in the music industry and warlocks. But a lot of the music that's Gen Zers that are coming out are witches. And so like they're spinning things into the music that you can hear. And this isn't like there's a very, 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 very famous artist right now who tells people this, right? She's actually been mentioned on our podcast before. And so I'm like, it's important, I feel like, for people to understand where their value system is when it comes into music, because I think that if you just think it's like all cool and good, like the witch is not necessary, like, it depends on what their bent is, but there's this one witch that I used to really love listening to, and then I found this out, and I was like, for me, I got to step back. Her music isn't depressing at all. It's very encouraging.
Hold on. These are like how are you defining like people?
No, like they're saying they're witches. I'm not defining it for them.
Oh, so these are people that self-identify as witches that are making music, and they're like big artists that are self-identifying as witches. I don't. Yeah. This is new to me. I don't know any witches that would say I'm a witch.
Yeah, I mean, most a lot of people are very open with the fact that they're witches too. Now, a lot of people, if you're a witch and you start in the music industry, or you become a witch while you're there, and I want to be careful because I don't want people coming. I'm not an authoritative force on this. Like, I don't have. I do know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do know some stuff. I have a witch friend. Like,
I don't know any witches. Not one.
You would say you may think that. You probably do, but
somebody
but it's
that
like,
self-identifies as a witch, I don't know not a single witch.
You may not be friends with them, but it's a lot more common than you think. I'll just say that. It's a lot.
Well, okay.
But my point is, when they come into the music industry, they may not right away say it because that's a little bit, but Gen Z is way more open to it, right? So I'm just saying it doesn't necessarily, I'm with you. I think if you're already in a dark place and you're listening to dark stuff, looking for dark stuff, it can take you there, but you could just be open. And that's what I'm saying. The thing about frequencies, a lot of times when you're just open and you don't know it's there and you're not exposed to the understanding of what music is, way more spiritual. It's the only, like, your brain can interpret and understand music in multiple different places. You could be essentially brain dead and your brain can still interpret music, right? So there's like a lot of cognitive functions that happen with music. So I would say, I agree that it can be dark and you could lead yourself there, but I would say also be careful. Like, if you have kids, they don't know, they're just excited. They're like, oh, this is cool. Or if you have, you know what I'm saying? It's like maybe you're like feeling really lonely and then you start, there you can play into anything, or you could just be like, I'm chilling. This is dope. I'm open. And then you're getting you're getting programmed in the process. And again, this is a neutral opinion because I don't know where people are bent, like there are like people who are open about being witches aren't just running around like with a broom. Do you know what I'm saying? There's like a ton of people who have like practices that you would be blown away by. That's why when people are like, the industry isn't that bad, or this and that, I'm like, I can walk down 2 doors and show you some shit that will blow your mind. Like, it's not just the music industry, it's the world that we live in. People imbibe in a lot of interesting things. So I would just say, don't be so naive that this sounds good, I'm rocking with it, or I'm in a good mental place, I'm super smart, I'm good. Because even in Morocco, Damn, I wasn't supposed to say that. But even when I was in Morocco, the thing that the police were saying were kids were bored. And so they were going to these witch doctors to put them in trances so that they could be taken over when they listened to music so that they could have fun. And then when they would be taken over, like they would, like invite spirits in, they were doing reckless shit in Morocco, like crazy shit, like setting shit on fire, like literally throwing themselves off of cliffs because they're like, I just want to feel something. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, and this is an extreme example, and this is something that I actually unfortunately experienced in real time. I saw some stuff. That's why I ended up talking to the police officer. I'm just saying it's not necessarily I'm not healthy. I'm a healthy, sane individual, so this isn't going to affect me. It's not like you can tell yourself, I'm hearing this frequency, let me tune it out. I'm just going to listen to the good frequencies. That's all I'm saying. It's just like, it's a lot of people say this stuff is woo woo. I would say do your research, but the world we live in is way more spiritual than it is physical. And so however you take that or perceive that, I would say, be mindful of the music you're listening to.
Well, we don't have to take it to a spiritual level. I looked into just a very cursory glance at the science behind all this, and I want to clear one thing up at the end of this. But if you just research, frequency is science. It's not something that someone made up. So what I found was that there are many studies about sound, and sound can even be weaponized, literally weaponized to attack people, but very low frequency VLF speakers were turned on during a live electronic music concert, and audience members' movements were measured. The study found that movement increased when the VLFs were present, suggesting that VLFs had an unconscious effect on behavior. When low frequency sounds, there's a separate study, when low frequency sounds are admitted in a room, they can bounce off walls and create standing sound waves. These standing sound waves can create areas of high pressure that can cause non-contact sensations in the body. This is the dark stuff, because this doesn't necessarily have to do with music. This just has to do with sound affecting people, which clearly it does. If there's a high pitched whine, it can drive people crazy. People lose their minds over that, and it affects their health. Low frequency sounds are similar, impairing cognitive functions. Low frequency noise can negatively impact higher order cognitive functions such as logical reasoning. Low frequency noise can interfere with the performance of work tasks, especially for people in sensitive occupations like pilots, surgeons, and vehicle drivers. So environmental noises in cities, especially, there are lawsuits about this stuff, where people have been negatively affected by some kind of industrial noise that they don't even realize is there, and it gets to them after a while. So I think what people are saying about, like what Kanye is saying, and then the other gentleman, is that these these bass sounds are actually putting people in a trance where they're more suggestible to whatever the lyrics in the music say. And I think that's a leap that I'm not prepared to speak on. But as far as just, for me as a producer, should I stop using sub bass? Is that going to negatively affect people? There are other studies on music psychology where bass inspires feelings of power and control. That's interesting. Maybe you can use that. I think
relegating it to bass and sub bass is even is a very intentional pointing, because there's a lot of other, especially higher pitch frequencies. So I think talking about bass and sub bass is very pointed, because it's like, oh yeah, the hip hoppers.
Well, sub bass is, okay. So what this research also says, sub bass is between 30 and 60 hertz, which is lower than a bass frequency, because sub just means below. So 808s I call them sub bass because an 808 is proprietary. That came out in 1980. That was pretty much isolated to Japan for a while and had nothing to do with hip hop until I think later in the 80s. Now we're just using sub bass frequencies because that's what sounds good. But I think what's important, before producers start deleting all of their sub bass drum kits, there's this whole, like we were talking about law of vibration. So we're talking about frequencies there. We're talking about chakras, all this and that. And That's actually based on science from what I could tell. I'll just read something else. So there are 7 main energy centers in the body, and it has to do with nerves. And they form electromagnetic fields. As we know, humans are full of electromagnetism. Now, electromagnetism creates certain frequencies, but frequencies are just a measure of a certain, it's a metric, right? With sound waves, that's an entirely different kind of wave. So my concern is that people end up conflating brain waves with sound waves and electromagnetism with sonic waves, and they're like, oh, the sub bass, that's going to affect your lower chakra because your lower chakra emits a lower frequency and it's like, well, okay, they're not the same. So that's what worries me when I see this stuff because, one, producers, we're not above weird shit. Producers are weird. We come up with weird shit on our own. But then when we see some stuff being spread on in the social media sphere, we're like, oh, well, we have to. This sounds correct because there's a lot of science being sprinkled into this, and there's science, there's spirituality, there's someone who's an authority on this, like Kanye. But you can be partially correct, and you might be onto something. However, I just encourage people to think for themselves. And
Kanye just be repeating stuff he heard like 15 minutes ago. Like, and then acts like he's a guru on the subject and acts like nobody knows this shit. That's what he be doing.
Like, you never know though, because sometimes it's like Kanye will say something and then 3 or 4 years later you're like, Kanye was actually onto it. And then
when you say 2 billion things, you got to be right 2 years later about something. Like,
that's true. I'm just saying, and this is not a pro Kanye stance. I rock with him, and but I also think he needs to be checked way more often. I do believe that he is a herald and a visionary. So I think that a lot of shit that we think is crazy or like wild is actually founded and won't be revealed for a long time. But I agree. I think bro needs to be checked. I think bro is wild, but I can't just be like, he just made that shit up or he just heard it. It's like, I don't know.
It's like,
I think a lot of people are, it's not just him. A lot of people are out there giving out information left and right at a million miles an hour, and they themselves. That's
why I say I refrain from saying stuff, even if I've researched it, because it's like, it's not up for debate for me in the court of public opinion. Also, I'm not a scientist, and I don't want to have to cite all my references.
All right, well, let's wrap this up. I would promote Game from the Gods, but by the time this episode comes out, there's only going to be one more city. This Monday, when you're listening to this, we're going to be in New York tonight. But hopefully they go well. It seems like a lot of people, we've gotten a lot of excitement built up over the past week. So hopefully it continues and ticket sales continue to climb. I'm looking forward to it. I still don't even know exactly how this is going to go, but
I'm interested.
But yeah,
come to Digilog days too. That'll be Friday and Saturday. I'll be speaking.
Yeah, in New York. In New York, if you don't know about the Digilog, or if you're anywhere, if you don't know about the Digilog, make sure you follow them. They're a great resource for artists, for producers, for managers, people looking to get into the business side, looking to get jobs. They're just a great community to connect and build with, and they have their annual event. Digilog Days is, I guess, this week. If you're listening to this on Monday. On Friday and Saturday in New York. Come out, network, learn, share, educate. It's going to be an interesting next 13 days or so.
And speaking of 13 days, you can release a lot of music in 13 days, but what if you had 60 days to release a lot of music? Go to tolost.com, use the code @odds, ATODDS, for 3 free months of premium music distribution.
MEC.
You can get a lot.
You can use @odds too.
Oh, my bad. Why? I keep saying that. MEC. Use MEC. Don't use @odds. Or, I mean, whatever. If you forget, like I do frequently, you're fine. You might even be able to still use the pain code and still
you
get
can the code, but the other code is still active. The add-ons is still active. It will remain active. But going forward, use MEC. If you're sharing it with a friend, use MEC. But yeah, lots of good things happening. So hopefully people stack their wins, share your wins on Share Your Wins Wednesday. And yeah, this was a good episode. Witches and
808s. All right. Appreciate you tuning in. Peace.